Rain pelted the Manhattan streets like 1,000 tiny needles as Elena Marlowe stood shivering in front of her luxury apartment building. Her designer heels were soaked, her sleek black coat clung to her frame, and her usually composed expression had given way to quiet frustration. The wind whipped her hair into her face as she stared at the security keypad, fingers trembling. She had left her keycard in the office. Her phone was dead. Her driver had already pulled off, assuming she'd gotten inside. The doorman, usually her safety net, had finished his shift just minutes ago. For someone who ran a billion-dollar tech company with precision and confidence, this moment felt strangely surreal. Elena wasn't used to needing help. She was the one people turned to for answers, the woman with a plan, the one who always stayed in control. But now, she stood vulnerable in the pouring rain, uncertain what to do next. Just then, a quiet voice broke through the sound of traffic and thunder. "Need some help?" She turned to see a man standing under the awning of the side entrance, a toddler slumped asleep against his chest. He looked tired, worn, but kind. His hoodie was damp, and his grocery bag had spilled slightly onto the wet concrete. "I live here," he said gently, motioning to the door. "Come in out of the rain. We can figure something out." Elena hesitated only a moment, then followed him into the building, not knowing how much that choice would change everything. Elena stepped into the modest warmth of the apartment building, the rain still dripping from her coat. The man, Daniel, he introduced himself, led her toward the elevator, balancing the toddler on one hip and juggling a soggy grocery bag in the other hand. She offered to help, but he just smiled and shook his head. "Got it. You warm up first." Moments later, she found herself standing in his small, slightly cluttered apartment on the third floor. It wasn't anything like her penthouse suite. The furniture was mismatched but comfortable, the walls adorned with crayon drawings and framed photos of a woman with bright eyes, probably his late wife. There was a faint scent of vanilla and baby shampoo, the kind of homeliness that Elena hadn't experienced in years. He set his daughter gently on the couch, tucking a blanket around her. "This is Lila," he said quietly. "She's out cold after a long day." Daniel moved around the tiny kitchen with ease, pulling out 2 mugs and heating milk on the stove. "Cocoa okay?" "It's what I do when I don't have much to offer," he said with a sheepish grin. Elena nodded, unsure how to respond. She hadn't been offered something so small yet sincere in ages. They sat at the kitchen table, steam rising between them, the quiet hum of a lullaby playlist in the background. In that unassuming kitchen, a barrier between strangers began to soften, through nothing more than cocoa and quiet kindness. As the cocoa cooled in their mugs, the conversation began to warm. It started with small talk, weather, the chaos of New York life, the broken buzzer in the lobby, but something in Daniel's calm presence made Elena feel oddly safe. She let out a long breath she hadn't realized she was holding. "I've had the kind of day that makes you question everything," she confessed, her voice softer than she expected. "Meetings, media, expectations, and then I get locked out like a rookie." Daniel chuckled. "Happens to the best of us. I once locked myself out with Lila still inside, eating peanut butter with her fingers. It was a nightmare, and also the day I learned how fast I could climb a fire escape." Elena laughed, genuinely. It felt foreign and freeing. Then came a pause. Her gaze wandered to the photo of the smiling woman again. Something about the way he looked at it earlier made her ask gently, "Your wife?" Daniel nodded. "Sophie. She passed last spring. Cancer. We thought we had more time." His voice didn't crack, but the weight behind his words filled the room. "I'm so sorry," Elena whispered. He shrugged lightly. "Some days are heavier than others. Lila keeps me moving forward. Kids don't wait around for your grief." Elena blinked back unexpected tears. She came from boardrooms and billion-dollar decisions, yet nothing had touched her lately like this man's quiet resilience. In that moment, she didn't feel powerful or important, she just felt human. The sharp click of the locksmith's tools echoed in the hallway as Elena stood by the door, ready to return to her world. She turned to Daniel, cocoa finished, heart unexpectedly full. "Thank you," she said. "For everything. You didn't have to." He waved her off. "It's nothing. Really. You needed help. I've been there." Before she could respond, a flicker of movement caught his eye. The TV in the corner, left on for background noise, flashed to the evening news. A headline scrolled beneath a photo of her, polished and poised in a navy blue suit. Elena Marlowe pledges $100 million toward global education access. Daniel froze. His brow furrowed, eyes darting from the screen to the woman standing in his hallway, hair still damp, coat slung over one arm, entirely transformed by context. "You're her." Elena nodded slowly, a small smile tugging at her lips. "Yeah. I guess I am." He stared at her, surprised but not intimidated. "I didn't recognize you without the spotlight." "Most don't," she said quietly. "But tonight. I'm glad someone saw me without it." Daniel didn't ask for anything, not a favor, not a photo, not a story to tell his friends. He just looked at her with the same kindness he had from the start, as if none of it changed who she was in that moment. And for the first time in a long time, Elena realized how much that kind of grace meant. A week later, Daniel came home from his shift at the school maintenance office to find a sleek black envelope tucked under his door. No name, just his apartment number written in simple gold script. Curious, he opened it. Inside was a handwritten note on thick cream-colored paper. "Daniel. You reminded me that kindness doesn't need cameras or credit. It just needs heart. You brought me back to a part of myself I'd forgotten. Thank you, for the cocoa, the conversation, and the reminder that we're all just people in need of each other sometimes. Elena." Beneath the note was a formal offer, a full-time job at her foundation, managing community outreach projects, with a flexible schedule, full benefits, and a college scholarship fund set aside for Lila. Daniel stared at the paper, his hand trembling. He didn't even realize he was crying until Lila's small fingers brushed his cheek. "Daddy? What's wrong?" He knelt and scooped her up, holding her close. "Nothing, baby. Just something good happened." She giggled and wiped his tears with her sleeve. "Good tears?" "The best kind," he whispered. Down the hall, the city buzzed on with its usual noise and hurry. But inside apartment 3B, a quiet miracle had unfolded, born from a simple act of helping someone in the rain. Because sometimes, when you offer the smallest kindness, the world gives back in ways you never expect. And in that moment, Daniel knew, hope isn't found in headlines, it's found in human hearts.